I want to make sure I give my heart and I leave it in the cage. I'm from Roseville, Michigan. It's right outside Detroit. Small town. I have 3 brothers and a sister. We have 1 house, so my neighborhood is very tight-knit. I was 7 years old and I was running all around my neighborhood, you know. I mean, I got in my first fight when I was like 11 years old. I was at a park and some kid was kind of just picking on me and I was just a little kid. It's funny because like I didn't really know I could fight, but I wrestled since I was 5. So like I pretty much just like double-A'd the kid and took him down and I was like, oh, well, I can kind of actually fight. I knew I was good when I was a youth, but in high school, once I started beating guys who were state qualifiers and state placers, I was like, you know, I'm pretty good. And that's when I realized, you know, I can win a state title. And I did. I actually won a state title my senior year. I got recruited by a lot of Division I schools. I didn't have the grades, so I went to Lindsey Wilson. The coach there was wonderful. I got a scholarship, wrestled there for a year, and then I transferred to Michigan State because I wanted to wrestle in the Big Ten. I knew the Big Ten was the toughest conference, and that's where I felt I belonged, and I wanted to test myself, see what kind of athlete I was.
You gonna train tomorrow?
Yeah.
I grew up wrestling on national teams as a youth with Bobby, and then we actually wrestled in college together at Michigan State.
I have some good stories. Me and Ben,
Be careful here.
no.
You're close as teammates, but when you're a practice partner, it's a different, like you're texting each other like, hey, what time are you going to practice, or extra workouts, stuff like that. So your bond is a lot closer than normal with teammates.
I remember Bobby's first day there because it was a summer and nobody was really training that much, and you called me up like, hey, you want to drill? And I remember you're from Lindsey Wilson, you're at my weight. I'm like, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass. Like, no way this guy's coming in at my weight. But the one thing that I noticed about Bobby is you could not, no matter how many times I took you down, no matter how many times I'd push the pace, I'd rub your head in the mat, I'd try to break you, he just would not break. It would frustrate the heck out of me.
So I kept close with Bobby with his UFC career. You know, I've been very busy with my business, but I followed him and texting back and forth, you know, just words of encouragement. You know, he's my brother, so watching him do this is like, hey, I'm very proud of you. And then when he got his UFC debut, I was like, oh my God, you know, Bobby's doing it. And I watched his fight. I remember sitting with my wife and my son, screaming at the TV, and then he lost his fight, and that's where I knew he needed me most. I needed to reach out to him, and he responded back with, hey, when we gonna start training? And that was like a day after his fight too, so it's like, wow, this kid's hungry.
What do you want to be known as?
I want to be known as the guy who has an amazing conditioning, amazing work ethic, and can push the pace in every fight.
Proud of you.
Thank you, man. I watched UFC and I always saw these high-level wrestlers doing well in it. So it was something that I always thought was kind of cool. My buddy Eric Moon was like, hey, you want to fight today? And I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll fight. He picks me up and I fought some guy. He was like, oh, okay, you fight him. Like, so I just fought some like random dude and I smoked him. So the first time I ever fought, never stepped foot in an MMA gym, never trained. I fought the same day and I TKO'd him round 1. I remember when I first started fighting, my goal was to go to the UFC, to fight the best in the world. And when I got that call, I was giddy, I was excited, I got emotional because I worked so hard. From college, training was full time. I put my heart and soul into the sport. When the UFC calls, you take it. Whether it's a week, 2 weeks, you don't be like, oh, I don't know if I'll be ready. You go whenever the UFC calls. You know, it was a bummer that I only had 3 weeks to prepare for my opponent, but that didn't matter. That didn't stop me. I fought Li Jingliang. He's the #1 prospect in China. He's an extremely tough and talented fighter. And my UFC debut, I wasn't fighting, you know, a guy who's only had 1, 2 fights. I fought a veteran. I was fighting a guy who had 4 wins and 2 losses in the UFC. This was his 6th UFC fight, and this was my first. I went in there the first round, I was beating the crap out of him. The one thing I regret in that fight, I won the first round and I was winning the second round. And I was tired because it was 3 weeks notice. I remember my brother yelling, 20 seconds left. As soon as he said that, I was like, okay, I'm winning the fight. Let's coast, Bobby. Let's coast. Let's just get to round 3. Worst mistake, man. I wish I would have pumped out a jab. 5 seconds later, I get hit with the right hand, but I didn't go down. And he hits me again, and I got knocked out. I just wanted to coast into the next round, and that was a mistake, and that's something I'll never do again. The walkout was probably the highlight of my life. You know, I'm in the back room, I'm warming up, and they call me out. And it's normal. I get out there, I'm in the Pepsi Center, 20,000 people screaming, and they're not watching a basketball game, they're watching one single individual. And not only that, I have millions of viewers at home watching. It was unreal. I love knocking people out in a sense of combative sport. But when you knock someone out, it's a rush, man. It's pretty wild, it's pretty primitive. When you're playing basketball or football, you can rely on someone else. I'm fighting another man. It's only me. If I lose to this man, well, to me, he's a better man than me, and that's a hard pill to swallow. I want to show that I'm the more superior man. You will definitely be seeing me again. I expect an absolute spectacular performance from me. My next fight won't be a fight of the night. It's going to be performance of the night. I plan on dominating my opponent.